What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 7 upcoming builds in New World Season 10. As most of you already know, this season has shaken up things quite a lot. For the first time, all weapons will now scale with 2 attributes instead of just 1, which opens up a bunch of hybrid combinations that weren't really viable before. On top of that, the total attribute pool has now been slightly lowered, so instead of the old caps, now at the endgame you're looking at about 500 to 530 points depending on your build. That means you need to think more carefully about where every single point goes. So let's start things off with one of the hardest hitting melee combinations in the game right now, and it is the Greatsword paired with the Great Axe. The main idea behind this build is the raw aerial of effect pressure and the crowd control. You're running 2 of the best cleave weapons in the game, which means that you're constantly swinging into the groups of enemies, disrupting their position and forcing them to either retreat or get melted down. This is a build that thrives in the large group content like the Outpost Rush or the Wars, but it can also dominate in the open world fights and the dungeons, thanks to the sustain and mobility it brings. For attributes, we are going with the 300 strength, 100 constitution and 100 dexterity, with any leftover points going right into the strength. The reasoning behind this is very simple. At 300 strength, you unlock the heavy attack bonus, which makes your greatsword and the great axe both hit like a truck. Then constitution at 100 will give you just enough durability to not fold instantly in the front line, while the 100 dexterity breakpoint adds bonus critical chance, which synergizes beautifully with the great axe natural crit potential. On the greatsword side, we are running the relentless rush, steadfast check and the roaring rupture. Relentless rush will give you strong cleave damage and mobility. Then the steadfast check lets you pull enemies in and even heal yourself while doing it. And roaring rupture is your huge AoE taunt and the weak effect that completely disrupts enemy groups. For passives, we focus on maximizing the onslaught stance bonuses, the crit chance and the stamina regeneration, so you can keep diving into the fights without running out of steam. Then for the Great Axe tree, we will pick the Reap, Charge and the Maelstrom. Reap will pull enemies directly into your face and set them up for AoE combos. Then Charge gives you both an engage and disengage tool, while the Maelstrom is one of the best spinning abilities in the game, dealing damage and even absorbing projectiles, which is incredibly valuable in the group fights. And then with his passives, we lean into sustain, self-healing and AoE damage amplifiers, so your swings feel heavier and heavier the longer you fight. In terms of armor weight, we go with the light, because the damage boost is too good to pass up on. But between the Great Axe mobility and the sustain from the steadfast strike, you can absolutely manage it. Then the gem of choice here is the opals on both weapons, because you will be dodging and dipping your stamina bar constantly, which keeps the opal damage buff active almost at all the times. And then the skill rotation generally will start with the greatsword with the roaring rupture into relentless rush, then swapping into the great axe to reap enemies in, then spin them down with the maelstrom and either chase with the charge or reset. If you play this properly, then this rotation will delete groups of enemies before they can even react. Next, we have a hybrid rangecaster build that has been gaining a lot of attraction in Season 10, and it is the bow combined with the void gauntlet. The idea here is to kite and pressure enemies from range with the bow, then lock them down and debuff with the void gauntlet. It's a build that shines in 1v1s and small scale fights, but it can also provide massive AoE pressure when played well. Attribute-wise, we want to go around 350 dexterity, 125 constitution and 25 focus. The big chunk into the dexterity is non-negotiable, because that's where all of your range crit damage and the headshot multipliers will come from. Then 125 constitution gives you survivability, so you don't just fall over the second that someone jumps on you. And then the 25 focus will add a bit of extra cooldown reduction. And then any leftover points will go into dexterity if you need more DPS, or constitution if you need the extra HP. Then on the bow we'll be running the poison shot, rain of arrows and explosive arrow. This trio will give you constant damage over time, AoE zoning and the high single target bursts. Passives are built around the critical chance, stamina regen and damage amplification, while enemies are debuffed or slowed. And then on the void gauntlet side, we are going with the Petrifying Scream, Baleful Tether and the Orb of Decay. Petrifying Scream is one of the strongest CC tools in the game, and makes the enemy sitting ducks for your bow to shoot. Then the Baleful Tether reduces enemy damage while boosting yours, which in duels is a game changing. And then Orb of Decay is versatile, because it deals damage, heals you and applies debuffs depending on how you use it. In terms of passives, we focus on cooldown reduction and sustain so you can keep swapping between the offense and defense super quickly. The best armor weight for this build is light, so you can kite and dodge as much as possible. For gems, you should go with the rune glass of electrified opal gem on both of them, which will give you bonus lightning damage alongside the stamina based damage boost. In practice, your fights will look like this, so you open with the Orb of Decay and the Baleful Tether, then scream through them in place, then immediately swap to the bow and unload the Poison Shot, Rain of Arrows and Explosive Arrow. If you execute it correctly, then most enemies will never even get a chance to get too close to you. Then our third build is a frontline bruiser that combines a Greatsword with a sword and shield. The goal here for this build is to bring both high AoV pressure and a strong crowd control. The Greatsword will handle your big swings and sustain, while the sword and shield will give you defensive utility and the ability to stun and displace enemies. For attributes, we're looking at the 300 strength, 100 constitution and 100 dexterity, with leftovers going into constitution. The strength gives you that heavy attack bonus at the 300, which is huge for the Greatsword. Then constitution provides safety, and dexterity gives that critical chance, which is too valuable to skip. Then skill-wise, the Greatsword build will stay consistent, so we go with the Relentless Rush, Steadfast Strike and the Roaring Rupture. These skills together will let you engage, sustain and apply AoV weaken effects constantly. For passives, we are focused on the Onslaught stance uptime, crit chance and the stamina regen. And then on the sword and shield, we will run the Upheaval, Leaping Strike and the Shield Rush. Upheaval will deliver big AoV stagger, then Leaping Strike lets you close gaps quickly, and Shield Rush provides knockback and CC to either way engage or peel off your allies. These passives here will build into Fortify, Stamina Efficiency and the CC Effectiveness, so that your shield abilities feel impactful and keep you alive longer. Then armor weight for this build is once again light, because the Greatsword and the Sword and Shield will both thrive on mobility and output, but some players can also swap to the medium for the added durability. Then gems should be opals for the consistent stamina based damage, and then lastly a typical rotation would be engaging with the Shield Rush or the Leaping Strike, then immediately swapping to the Greatsword for the Roaring Rupture into Relentless Rush, and then finish it off with a Steadfast Strike to heal yourself while locking them down. Our number 4 build takes us into the healer territory, with the Life Staff and the Void Gauntlet pairing. This is the best in slot hybrid healer build in Season 10, and it's stronger than ever. The main goal here is to provide massive healing output, while also contributing meaningfully to the damage and the debuffs when the opportunity arises. For attributes, we're looking at around 250 focus, 150 intelligence and 50 constitution, and few points sprinkled into dexterity and strength if you want to. The heavy investment into focus ensures that your heals from the Life Staff are top tier. Then 150 intelligence makes your Void Gauntlet skills hurt a lot more, and then constitution gives you survivability, so you're not just getting deleted as soon as the enemy sees the healer. And then any leftover point should go into constitution for the extra tankiness. Then as far as the Life Staff tree goes, we will take Divine Embrace, Sacred Ground and the Beacon. This gives you single target burst healing, a persistent AoV healing zone and a beacon, which is a strong AoV heal plus a damage boost. The passives should focus on reducing cooldowns, extending duration of your buffs, and managing mana costs so you can keep spamming heals in the extended fights. And then on the Void Gauntlet, we will use the Void Blade, Oblivion and the Baleful Tether. Void Blade allows you to swap into the melee and contribute to real damage if you are pressured. Then Oblivion buffs allies and weakens enemies in AoV, and Baleful Tether amplifies damage against a single target. And then with passives, we lean into the cooldown reduction and sustain, so you can keep swapping between support and offense. For this build, you want to go with the medium armor, because as a healer you will be targeted constantly, and the extra defense is worth the slight damage loss. Then for gems, you should get diamonds for the maximum healing while at full health. The way that you play this build is by first while using the Sacred Ground and the Beacon, and keeping the tether on the key enemies, and dropping Oblivion to buff your team pushes. However, if you get pressured, then pull out the Void Blade to fight back, or even Entombed if you need that breathing room. This makes you both a strong healer and a high damage dealer. Next we have the classic mage build, the Fire Staff and the Ice Gauntlet. This combo has been strong since the launch, and in Season 10 it remains a top damage dealer in both PvP and PvE. The Fire Staff gives you nukes and the burn effects, while the Ice Gauntlet provides CC, defensive tools and strong AoE pressure. It's a definition of a glass cannon, but with the right positioning you can carry entire fights. For attributes we aim for the 350 intelligence and 150 constitution. The big intelligence investment will maximize the crit damage and the scaling for both the weapons, while constitution ensures that you don't get deleted instantly. Some players will put 25 points into focus for the better mana regen, but that's also optional depending on your gear. Then for Fire Staff we get abilities like the Pillar of Fire, Fireball and the Burnout. Pillar and the Fireball are your bread and butter nukes, while the Burnout will give you mobility to engage or escape while dealing damage. Then for passives here, we should focus on boosting the burn duration, crit chance and the mana sustain. On the Ice Gauntlet we want to run the Ice Spikes, Ice Storm and Entombed. Ice Spikes will deliver devastating bursts if aimed correctly. Then the Ice Storm provides AoE zoning and the slows, while Entombed is your panic button for defense and mana regen. And then passives are focused on extending CC duration and improving the mana sustain. For armor weight, medium is the sweet spot. It gives you enough defense to survive focus fire, while still letting you to deal top damage. Then for gems we have two options. Either way go with the Opals for the stamina based damage or the Malachite if you want the added protection against CC. The typical rotation here is to open with the Ice Storm to zone enemies, then immediately throw the Fireball and the Pillar into the clump, and then add Burnout through them to reposition or deal extra damage. Overall, this rotation can wipe groups in seconds.